Timothy Simons of Veep. Last year we spoke and you said this to me, okay? You said, we're sort of perennial losers, which is a Veepish thing. We're able to get to that sort of height and put on these tuxes, and then we lose every year. It's very funny. There's something very on point and very Veepish about that. There's no way we can push through. How did it feel to win the Emmy last year for Best Comedy Series? Did it feel very un-Veepish? Was it disappointing?
No, it definitely wasn't disappointing. I was honestly really surprised. I really didn't think we were going to. I'm obviously very proud of the work that we do. We have an incredible team of people. We have incredible writers. I love the cast that we have. But I was really surprised, and but that was the last time. That was like the last time that like the original crew of Armando and Simon and Tony and this cast, kind of the last time we were all going to be together. That was the last event with that original group of people, and so it felt amazing to go out with that group of people in that moment. So I will say, like, as funny as it is to lose all the time, it felt really cool. It felt great to win that one time. I went backstage and I knew that actors don't get Emmys. Like I don't have like an actual statue. Like the producers get statues for it. And I knew that. And when this was a very Veepish thing, is that I got backstage and they handed me a clipboard. And I said, "What's this for?" And they said, "Well, you sign this and then we give you an Emmy." And I was like, "Oh." And I went and I looked, but I assumed that they would know that I wasn't a producer on it. And I looked, I read down the list, and I said, "My name's not on here." And they go, "Oh, then you don't get one." And then I just had to keep leaving. I just had to keep walking. So that was the Veepish moment that happened with the win.
How special was it to win in that final year of Armando and the rest of the crew? Like, did that have carry with some extra significance and some maybe urgency to win last year almost? We want to win before they're on the way out?
No, I don't know that I wouldn't have described it as urgency. I wouldn't have described it as urgency. I think because we all had such. I mean, we all had. I think even by that point we were in the rehearsal room with Dave and with the new writers, and so we had such great confidence in them that Dave Mandel, our new showrunner, he knew the tone of the show so well. I think we had great confidence in them that there wasn't a sense of urgency, and I think. And I don't even know if I would classify it as important. Like it was like if we had lost, we would have all gone out and had drinks and had a great time hanging out with one another. But this particular time, we all got to go up on stage together, and I don't know. It was just a really special moment before not being able to see him as often. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what was that night like, the big sort of Emmy-winning night, going to the after parties as Emmy winners?
This year, oddly, we have a reputation, like as a cast when we're in production, most of us are older, we're married, we have kids, we're all very early to bed, early to rise. A glass of wine, say hi, go to bed. But apparently our cast and crew has a reputation for shutting down HBO parties. Like over a Game of Thrones cast, over all the other ones, like we shut down all of their parties. And what was odd about last year's was that I think it was like 180 degrees in Los Angeles that night. And on top of that, the HBO party's theme was fire. And so you got in and everything was orange and red. They had a giant abstract rotating sculpture of fire. And then they actually had open flames, like gas powered, like fire pits all around the party, but it was 180 degrees out. And it was so unbelievably hot. I think everybody passed out. Like everybody passed out so quickly that we couldn't shut it down. And I remember I had the worst hangover that I've ever had in my entire life the next morning. And I didn't really drink that much. I truly believe I was just massively dehydrated. So I wish I could say that we went out in a blaze of glory and out until 7 a.m., but it didn't happen that night.
Yeah, it was like that's funny. Like when the heat does get you like hungover more quickly.
It does, absolutely.
Yeah, I was there that night, and it was like the tables, like the Veep tables, were still some of the most pumping tables, and just full of Emmys. You had like 2 tables completely full of all the Emmy trophies.
Yeah, it was cool. Like, it was fun. I think we all posted pictures of that night, only because it just meant, I don't know, it felt good. It felt like there were like that recognition of the people's, like, of work that we were proud of was really cool. And, you know, and Tony winning and Julia winning, like, you know, it's not the end goal. Like, the work is the end goal. Like, the good show is the end goal, but it is like, it's a fun thing to sort of see the appreciation of, to see that people like it, that people appreciate it. Like, it takes a physical form in covering an entire table with statues. And that was really cool. I checked in at the end of that party, and I was not able to take one of them home. None of those were mine.
Yeah, they were there for the plucking though, weren't they?
Yeah, I probably should have. I should have just taken Tony's.
You have to
put it up in my house, and then and just whenever he comes over, he's like, "It has my name on it." And I'm like, "Don't take that. That is theft. That is mine."
Yeah, it was good. You're the one guy I didn't catch from the cast.
Yeah, I didn't know you were there.
No, I think we just like kept on like being in different circles at different times.
Yeah. So I go around and I forget to eat. And then, because I'm so excited to see everybody, and then I just will make some circles, trying to see if I can bump into people from Game of Thrones and ask them to tell me what's going to happen on the next episodes. And I think we might have just been chasing each other the whole time, just like making circles. But I'm sorry, I never saw you. Are you going to be out there this year?
Don't know yet, so we'll see.
All right, cool.
We'll have to make sure we bump into each other if I'm there. Yeah, I found that too, because like I was so excited to see everyone. I wasn't eating much, and you got Tony there going, "Make sure you get the free food. Make sure you get the free food."
Yeah, Tony. I wouldn't be surprised if Tony brought Tupperware. He's a huge fan of free food in any sense.
Yeah. So anyway, Timothy, let's talk about the latest season of Veep, season 5. Firstly, what has it been like having a different showrunner this season, especially with your very in-depth improv and your very unique process that hasn't really been done in other shows much before?
Hold on one second. Do you need me to quiet that down?
If you want to.
Phone. Yeah, just one. Sorry, 1 second. Cut that part out. So we had, we did have a strange process, and I think it went great. Obviously, like, there were a lot of moving parts that were new at the very beginning, after we had spent 4 years developing a language together, as a cast and cast to writers, that was that we had to reestablish. It was in a way it was like making a new pilot. It was like that first episode. We were learning a new shorthand, and so that was, it was challenging but fun. I always feel like change is good for creativity. Change is good for art. It keeps people on their toes. And so there were moments where, something that might have been done very quickly last year took a little bit more time. But by the end of the season, it just felt like everything was still going, everything was still firing on all cylinders, just like it had been the year before. And then also, like, the rehearsal, because that's not a common, like, on American television shows, a rehearsal process is not very common. And so that was something that all of the actors loved about the show. And so but it was something, I think, very new for Dave and for his writing and for his writing staff and his writers. and so so it was kind of everybody getting used to these different to a different way of doing it, and the rehearsal process like kind of became, it was used for different purposes rather than like sort of fleshing out story. It was sort of fleshing out moments and fleshing out scenes, but everybody seemed to like find a good sort of happy medium for all of it. But yeah, by the end of the season, it all felt old hat, like we've been doing it together for years. But like those first couple weeks, like we had to, it was a lot of work. Yeah.
It's like when you've like gone out of a long-term relationship and you start dating someone else and you've got to sort of like,
yeah,
what do I take from the past relationship and how we were doing things? What are the new stuff? Like,
yeah, exactly. Like if somebody, if you spent 4 years with somebody and they always put their toothbrush on the left side of the sink, and then you just turn it in and then they start putting it on their right, like that's just going to look weird for a little while. But you eventually get used to it.
Yeah. This season on the show, we have had the John H. Ryan or Jonah Ryan campaign for Congress, and congratulations, you got in, you've won the election. What was that? How did you feel when you heard that that was the storyline for this season?
I mean, I was so excited about the idea that that might happen. Like when I first heard about it, it was like, oh, we're thinking about it. And I tried to pretend that they had never told me, because if they were like, oh, we thought about it and we don't want to do it, I would have been devastated. But that sort of thing was a really fun thing to play. Just because there are so many congressmen and so many politicians that have failed upward into these positions of power, much like Jonah. Like he has a lot of drive and he has a lot of self-confidence, but he doesn't have a lot of skill and he doesn't have a lot of people. He's not great with people. He's a serial sexual harasser. He's an awful person. But I love that he was able to, just by nature of having an uncle who's powerful in New Hampshire, he gets to be a congressman. I just loved that. And it's also, it was a fun thing to play, because I think that up until now, Jonah has never had to have a public face. He's only ever had the behind the scenes, can say bad things, can be his sort of awful self. He's never had to hide who he was. And when he was out there campaigning and trying to win votes, he has to put on a different air. He has to be friendlier. He has to be, he just has to be nicer in a way, or at least as nice as he can be, as friendly as he can be. And that was a really fun thing to play, to try to find that balance of that.
And he's sort of almost like moments of like lack of awareness where he just does not get how unlikable he is.
Yeah. He never gets it. I mean, like when he starts talking about like, you know, my zingers or what's gotten us this far, my zingers or what's gotten us this far. No, like I think he really thinks that he's just he's a lovely people person. He's just misunderstood. He's just a misunderstood person. Excuse me 1 second. Can I pause this and see who it is?
Yeah.
I have a sense that it's not going to stop.
Good.
Thank you.
That's good. No, that's fine.
It was completely unimportant. It had to be dialed in 3 times about.
Yeah. Oh, if someone calls twice or 3 times, you've got to take the call.
Yeah, at that point, just like somebody's dead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which
nobody was dead. Everybody's fine.
Okay, that's fantastic. That's good news. We're talking about the whole campaigning and Jonah Ryan for Congress and how he sort of like his zingers. You were saying how his zingers have gotten him is what got you that far.
I think that he thinks that he's just like he doesn't view himself as somebody that he views himself as handsome and charming and sort of just likable. I think that he views it, like I've always said this, that he looks at himself like he's a Dan, like kind of like a go-getter that everybody believes in, and that you could understand like, oh, that guy, yeah, he's going to go places, like attractive, women like him. Like that's how he thinks about himself. And so I think it was just kind of Jonah running for Congress. He looks at that and thinks, well, that's the natural next step. I'm talented and I'm powerful, and people naturally follow me. People naturally want to be led by somebody like me, somebody with my personality. And it's just, I mean, like his own cluelessness of his actual likability is pretty ridiculous.
Did you have a favorite moment from the campaign trail?
You know, there is one that you haven't seen that comes up that comes up in episode 9. I don't know if it made the cut, but if it does, it's the most Jonah line I think that I've ever said. Like, it's the most disgusting, the most vile, the most inappropriate thing that he's ever said, I believe will happen in episode 9. And I really liked the speeches, both the one where he accidentally finds a way into criticizing Selena, that ends up giving him a bump in the polls. Like, that's something that a politician is never supposed to do. He starts speaking from the heart. He starts speaking what he actually believes. And normally that should completely fuck him, but it doesn't. Like, it actually helps him. So I really like that sort of thing. And then, like, his victory speech of just turning it immediately turns into like a revenge, like this revenge thing of like, look at me now. Look, you didn't believe in me, but look at me now. I like that is it's so petty. It's so petty on a grand scale that I think those moments were probably my favorites.
Yeah. There was also some great little moments too, like when Dan's having the meeting in the cafeteria or wherever it is, and Joe's just having a fight with someone in the background.
That I think there was like a non-scripted but improvised version of that fight that they were maybe going to cut into. But basically that whole thing was, I'm supposed to be connecting. I start snapping at her to get my breakfast, and then it comes out and it's got the fruit on it, and I'm upset about the fruit and that the fruit has touched the pancakes. And then the whole backstory to that is that guy is that waitress's dad, and so he's super mad at me. Like, that's the whole backstory of that fight, that he can't believe I'm being so rude to his daughter, and then I'm telling him that his daughter should be better at her job and that I wouldn't be rude. And so I like those little moments, and little moments like when Sam says those little like the Judy Sherman moments where he's being Judy Sherman. And he's like, Jonah, watch your mouth. Like, watch your language. That sort of thing. Like when Sam has those moments where he internalizes Judy Shepard. I just loved it. I loved it.
And it was a throwback, the cafeteria scene to to season 1, your fructose intolerance.
Yeah. That's one of the things that Dave and these writers do really well are writing to the show's own mythology, like to bringing back little things like that. And I think in episode 10, there's this, if a camera catches it, it's going to be amazing, but there's going to be this one thing in episode 10 that is such a great callback to like episode 6. Like, they're just great at the show's own mythology and at the, and those things like remembering the fructose intolerance, remembering like leaving the trail of seeds for the Chinese hackers that like in episodes 1 and 2 that pays off at big in episode 3, but then also pays off with the meeting with the Chinese leaders in episode 8. Like, they're just great at planning those kinds of bits out.
And like, how have you felt your like relationship as an actor and like sort of dynamics have gone with like Sam Richardson particularly over the past couple of years? Because you've sort of become sort of partners in incompetence.
You know, I've loved working with Sam. He's so effortlessly funny. He's so great at what he does that I mean, it's just great to be on set with him. But I love Richard's buoyancy and his positivity as a foil to Jonah's sort of furrowed brow, negative, petulant thing. That like those two things just really complement one another. And so then Sam's just great to hang out with on set. But then every scene sort of takes on an extra like an extra. Every scene sort of takes on just a little bit of extra fun because it's such a great foil. And then in the second half of this year, the kind of the four-man thing of Peter McNichol and Reed and Reed's Dan and Sam and I, just like those scenes, like we could have just done forever. I think we just had a ball doing those.
And Peter McNichol coming on board to play your uncle, the uncle we've been hearing about for seasons on the show. What was it like getting him on board, and just those scenes between you and him where he's just giving it to you are pretty great.
Yeah, I've always liked Peter McNichol ever since Ghostbusters 2, and when we found out, like, he's got such power. He has such power in his voice, and he has a very commanding presence, which works really well for that character. And you are kind of fearful of him. Like when he got into Jeff Kane, like it's a very fearsome character. And it was really nice to see how he sort of came along in the process. Like when it first started, I don't think he had worked on a lot of shows that had any sort of improvisational element. And that takes a lot of trust. And it was great to see him by the end of the 4th or 5th episode that he was in, just having like when things would change, he was great with it. Like he like at the beginning, it would give it a couple minutes and focus and memorize and then come back in and do it. And by the end, like he was just fully up for anything and like having a great time with the improvised things, where I think it was a brand new sort of style for him at the beginning. But it was nice to see how he kind of came along and started to trust the group and trust the process of it. So he was really great, and he's got good stories too. So lunches were always fun.
Do you have a favorite moment from shooting season 4 of the show?
I think like when I think about the past season, I think about the mock debate from episode 7. I think that's like the first thing I think about in season 5, like when we shot this season, just because the back and forth of that scene between Peter, between Dan, between Sam and I, like that dynamic between the 4 of us, just the whole day that we did that, it was really fun. Everybody had a great time. The scene worked. It felt good. And that's the scene that I think of when I think about season 5.
Would that be the episode you would submit for the Emmys if you were nominated this year?
Oh, probably. It would probably be the one, which I think is episode 6. I think it's episode 6 is the one where he has the speech at the end where he's like, "I won't back down." I think that was episode 6. Yeah. Oh, when he meets all the constituents and everything. I think it would be that one.
Yeah.
Just because you kind of get to see all of the terrible things. You get to see like you get to see the campaigning Jonah, the Jonah that can give speeches, and you still get to see the awful behind the scenes him, and then you get to see like the weird pathetic Jonah that has still held on to this petty grudge he has against his 2nd grade teacher. I think it's probably that one.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. And I guess we still have 2 episodes to go, so I don't know what's in those final 2 episodes, but Jonah now has sort of like, he's in Congress. He's meant to be handing the election to Selena Meyer with his vote on the Congress. The prevailing question in my mind going into next week's episode is, how is he going to fuck this up?
I think with Jonah, there is always the aspect of he fucks things up. But one of the great things I think that like they are really good, and this is just to keep you on your toes, I would say that Dave and these guys, they're great at misdirects. Like I don't think anybody ever would have expected that he would win, and truly I never expected that he would win. So I think any history, like with this win, any character history of him fucking things up might you know, he's got a little bit of a win streak going, so you never know. You never know. He might actually do something right.
Maybe. And like, I wonder how nervous Selena Meyer is with her presidency in the hands of Jonah Ryan.
I would imagine pretty nervous. I'm sure she's gonna assign every single person to making sure he does not fuck it up.
Yeah, so that's something exciting to look forward to in the last. Probably next week. It looks like it's the week when that vote's sort of going to take place, but it seems like it's going to take place in the next two because the final's called inauguration. So
yes, yeah.
So anyway, that's exciting. What do you think? Like, if you could come up with a because we saw with Veep this season was you got your own website for Jonah, the campaign site and things like that, which was pretty fun. What was it like, that element of having sort of a storyline on the show that had a bit of a life outside of the show?
That was really fun. Dave and Billy Kimball, who's one of our writers, has been doing a lot of work on those, and I think all the writers have been involved. I think Billy's been and Dave have been spearheading it, but like their marketing campaign and has been insane. Like with like actually creating and continuing to update spletnet.net. And just letting fans find them. Like they don't put them out there, they just let fans find them. And then when they're discovered, they will they'll start saying like, we did this. But spletnet.net was incredible. I love that there's a Selena Meyer for President Twitter account. It really does add like this extra level of reality to it that's really fun. And the campaign website is incredible. I think that like we had all of the commercials that you see, like the 9 Jonah for Congress campaign commercials that you see, I think we all were shot in a matter of a few hours. I had no idea they were going to get that many out of it. It was incredible. The website, I love that they went for realism. It looks like an actual congressperson's like kind of poorly done website. And like they bought like a full page ad in the New Hampshire Union Leader for Jonah Ryan for Congress. Like the marketing for the marketing team, it's just been incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. What if you had to come up with like a sort of like tagline or campaign slogan for Jonah Ryan, what would it be?
I think my favorite one, Lou Morton, I believe, came up with, which is Nashua values, Manchester know-how. And just Nashua, those are just 2 New Hampshire towns, and it's like it's just like saying it's like country mouse and city mouse. Nashua values, Manchester know-how. I love that. If you know New Hampshire, if you know New England, it's amazing.
Do you have a favorite season of the show? Because one of the cool things about Veep is each season they sort of reinvent themselves a little bit, and you have a different sort of like focus. And your character in particular, I think, as each season sort of had a different arc. Has there been a favorite sort of season for you of Veep in terms of the material you've got?
You know, the Congress stuff, I mean, has been incredible. I loved the being fired. I've always loved that season where he got fired. The molestation with Teddy last year was really fun in that it was challenging to find like really root that or attempt to root it in the reality of it while still making it funny. That I love, trying to root it in that it was really affecting him, and it was workplace sexual harassment, and it was it was in that way like an assault, and I wanted it to have that feeling, and I wanted the audience to feel bad for him for having to go through that, but also hate that they felt bad for him because they dislike him so much. Like, so that was really fun to play with, to try to find that arc. So that one I really liked. And I think there is a thing like the show, like as she becomes president, the show has just gotten bigger and the scenes have to be shorter because everything has to go a lot quicker and everybody's been a little bit more spread out. There's a part of me that misses like those episodes in the first season where it's 6 people in a room or 5 people in a room, and Sue's at the desk, and I come in and out every once in a while, and you had 10-page and 12-page scenes where everybody's all in the same room going back and forth off one another. I miss that a little bit. I miss that group of, you know, of that crew, like those big long scenes that we played like short plays. You know, I'm a little bit nostalgic for those.
Yeah, no, for sure. And was there a moment from this most recent season that you improvised that you're particularly proud of or thought was particularly funny or something?
Oh, one of the things I really liked was in his speech when he says, I don't know about you, but my boyfriend's not a billionaire. That one was mine. That line was mine, and I was really happy. Like, that one made it into the cut. It made me laugh on the day, and I was just happy that they let me have a take with it. And you know, they always let you have a take with it. Like, all right, fine, let's give it a shot. And so it always, like, it gives you like an extra little bit of pride when something that comes up on the day makes it into the cut. That means it just went through so many different people saw it and decided, yeah, that's funny. Like, we have to leave that in. So there is a little bit of pride when that happens, but that was one of them. Like, I remember when I saw the cut and I was like, oh my God, that line made it in. Like, that one I felt pretty good about.
And you've got a couple of sort of, I think, film projects sort of in the pipeline, Gold, and is it Christine?
Christine, yeah, Christine and Gold. Christine is directed by Antonio Campos, who's a really amazing director, and it's about Christine Chubbuck, who's a reporter who committed suicide on air in 1974 in Florida, and it premiered up at Sundance, and I play the weatherman I play Steve Turner, the weatherman of the station that she works for, and it was a really amazing group, and I'm very excited for that. And then it's a Matthew McConaughey movie directed by Steve Gagan called Gold, about a gold swindle based on a true story in the 1980s. And those I'm both psyched about. I think they both come out later on this year.
Going back to Veep, just to sort of wrap up, what is the thing that after 5 seasons of being on Veep you are most excited about and you are enjoying most about the show?
It's about the whole experience generally, like, or something specific about like the episodes.
No, just the whole experience. Like, what after being on a show for 5 seasons, what, you know, gets you up and you're excited about going into work on it still?
I will say one thing, like, working on the show, I didn't go to grad school, and so I think like working on this show with the level of talent that exists on it has been like being able to go to grad school for now 5 years. And so we've had people like Armando and Simon and Tony Roach, all of the Brit writers, like the cast, and Frank Rich is one of our executive producers. So just even being able to talk to Frank Rich, to learn from those people, and then to be able to have like the new staff come in, and to have Dave, who has such an incredible background both in politics and in comedy, to be able to learn from people like that has been incredible. And one of the things I actually like about, like, my favorite parts about Emmy time is that we have been very lucky, and since the first season we've been nominated every year for Best Comedy. And with all of that, like all of the awards and the ceremonies and being able to dress up and feeling fancy, it always marks a time where the next morning or the next, usually afternoon, we're back in the rehearsal room, and it marks the beginning of the next season, of the next rehearsals, of the next working months. And I've always loved that it's a group of people that really likes working together and that really likes the work that they're doing. And so even now I get excited to get back into the room with them. That's been the thing. Like, that's sort of those are sort of my biggest takeaways from it.
Yeah. And so yeah, all like, Timothy, it's been so great chatting for you. All the best for Veep. All the best for the Emmys this year. Maybe you can break through in that supporting actor race. Join Tony there. That'd be fun.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, wouldn't it? So we'll see. Like on the back of a comedy series win, sometimes you do see a few extra actors like sort of sneak in. Like, I know, yeah.
so crowded out there though, and Tony is so unbelievably good in that part. I can't imagine it, but you know, we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think there's a possibility.
Well, nice. That's cool. It's you and my mom. So I'll take it.
Neither of us vote for the Emmys, I'm guessing. So anyway, so to the great chatting, all the best with the Emmys, all the best with Veep. It's great. If I'm over there for the Emmys or something else, hopefully we bump into each other.
Absolutely. I'll see you there.
Yeah. Okay.